Welcome to the Roaming Barista Siphon Pot Guide. We are going to start with a rundown of the equipment. So first here we have a cloth filter and the filter spring. This is the siphon filter stir rod. Top chamber fits into the bottom. Cap, which acts as a stand for the top chamber. Next we have the bottom chamber, which gets heated directly. And we have our butane burner. Alright. Now that we have all that squared away, we're going to fit the filter and filter spring through the top chamber. And this has a little spring latch that latches to the bottom just to keep it tight. Great, and we're just going to rest that to the side. Next thing up is to fill the water. I use 600 milliliters of cold or room temperature water. It's going to be heated up here, heated through this bottom chamber, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, there we go. The next thing that is up, we are going to get set to prepare our coffee. And we're actually not going to grind it at this point, we're just going to weigh it out just to have everything all ready. And we're going to be using 40 grams of coffee. So we're actually going to grind this at a later point, right when we're just about to, right as the water gets set up. Alright, we're just getting the timer set here. Now we're going to reassemble the siphon pot. Now that everything here is set, carefully fit the top chamber through. Make sure it's fairly tight. You're not going to have a chance to retighten it after it starts to heat up. I mean, you're not going to be able to hold that bottom bulb. Alright, now that everything is all set, what we're going to do is we're just going to start the heat on high. So as you notice, there's no coffee in there. I didn't even put the top cap in there. What we're waiting for is the coffee to begin to travel up to the top chamber. That's what we're looking for. So, some time has passed. Now we can see that the water is beginning to climb up to the top chamber. Kind of see that water line up there. So, we are going to set our grinder. And I use the same setting I would use for a pour over. And we can see the water is beginning to come up. So we will begin to grind right now. So we can see that once water begins to enter the top chamber, it'll actually fill up pretty quickly. And so as we're approaching the top, you want to lower the heat, and we're going to lower it down just to the point pretty much where it's just hot enough to maintain the water level on the top. So that's that. Now that the water's all set, we're going to dump the coffee in. And we are going to stir. So there are various techniques to actually stirring it. You know, a lot of the competition level techniques suggest, you know, maybe like 3 stirs without ever touching the side, something like that. However, for myself, I generally suggest just stirring enough to combine, you know, nothing too fancy. Those differences that different stirring techniques make are fairly minor in the greater scheme of things. So I like to keep it uncapped for this 4-minute infusion, although sometimes I need to remind myself of that. So we're just going to let it sit here on the top chamber with the low heat for 4 minutes. Alright, so now we fast forwarded to about the 3-minute marker. So, you know, just note about how the siphon pot works. Really, the only thing that's keeping the water on the top is the pressure on the bottom bulb, and that pressure is maintained by the heat below. Once you kill the heat below, then it will begin to redistribute the pressure, and that means that the bottom bulb will pull the coffee through. And so that's what we're seeing right now. It's pulling the coffee through to fill up the gap in pressure now that the heat is off, and hence the name vacuum pot or siphon pot, because it actually pulls the coffee through. It's not actually just working through gravity. There actually is pull from the bottom bulb, or this process would actually take a lot longer. So that's also why it's important to have a really good seal between the top and bottom chamber, just this part here. And you also notice that I put the top cap on just to reinforce that vacuum effect. Alright, so we are pretty much done here. We can just see that it's all foam coming up from the top. Carefully take off the top chamber. Keep in mind that the bottom is extremely hot, so it might be a little bit difficult to get it out. And I like to disconnect the filter from the top as I'm doing it. It is very hot. That's an optional step. So now that everything is set up, I have also emptied the water that I was preheating in my cup, so we are all set. Just to go ahead and pour carefully. And there you go. That pretty much does it, so enjoy, guys. Thank you guys for viewing. For more information on siphon pot preparation, please visit the link in the description below.